This video is about the battles I had to face during my time in education. I call this the no excuse story. So the story starts in 1995. I was 3 years old, and I was also just told that I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. This basically meant that I had to inject insulin for the rest of my life to stay alive. I had a hard time grasping this. In 1997, at age 5, I started my first year at school. I was very scared and extremely quiet. I was this way as I see my injections as a form of punishment, so I thought if I didn't speak, I wouldn't be punished. Because of this, I didn't have many friends at school and I'd be alone a lot of the time. My teacher at the time was worried and she sent me to go and see a psychiatrist. While I was there, I did ink tests, I would do puzzles, and I'd realised I was being timed. I realised I was being tested, and from there is when I realised I had diabetes and that my life would be different compared to others. So after seeing the psychiatrist, they realised I was okay, and I went back to school and I even made some friends. In December 1998, I was 7 years old and we decided to move. So during this whole time I lived in Glasgow. My parents then decided to move to Wolverhampton and we stayed with my grandparents for a little while. So when I started that new school in Wolverhampton, I realised that I didn't know anything and I'd get in trouble for that, which meant that I had a lot of detentions. This made me feel that school was really more like prison. But it turned out that I was put in the wrong school year. I was actually put in a year above than what I should have been. And then I ended up moving to the correct year, which was a year below. Here I was asked what this shape was. I said trapezium, and the teacher said well done. It was the first time I ever got a question right, and it made me realise that maybe I'm good at mathematics. A year later we moved away from my grandparents. My parents had bought a fish and chip shop. After buying the shop, my mum then took me for my normal diabetic checkup that I would have every 3 months. My mum tried her best to keep my blood sugars in a good range, but my blood sugars were a little bit higher than what they should have been. The doctor told off my mum quite badly, to the state where my mum started to cry, and that made me cry. This was the first time I ever felt like I was a burden to my mum. It got me really depressed, even to the state where I thought suicide was an option. But luckily for me, I have my mum. One day she could see that I was really down, and she ended up saying to me something that I'll never forget. She told me I was really strong. I really needed to hear that at that moment. So from there I was able to think more positive about myself, and I was so thankful for everything that I had in my life. And from this way of thinking I was slowly able to beat my depression. After battling depression, I then decided I was more focused about keeping myself happy, which meant that I wasn't focused on my education at all during my time in primary school and secondary school. I would get okay grades, just enough to pass, but the school would push me to go into further education classes, which would make me feel a little bit more stupid more than anything, and I seen them very pointless as I didn't actually learn anything during this time. There was only one subject that I was good at, and that was mathematics. So during my time in secondary school I carried on chilling, and I honestly thought I would get good GCSEs without having to revise or do any work. But it turned out that I didn't get very good GCSEs. I only got 3 C's in my GCSEs, which meant that I couldn't go to college. One of those C's was, of course, maths. So after my GCSE results, my mum wasn't very happy. She wanted me to have a better start to my future and believed that education was the way. So I decided to retake my GCSEs at college. I even did mathematics as I thought I could get a better grade than just a C. And with a bit more revising and a bit more taking my education a little bit more serious, I was able to walk out with 6 GCSEs C and above, and I even got an A in GCSE maths, which was the highest grade that I ever achieved. And then after that year I did my A-levels. I picked maths as one of my A-levels and 2 other subjects. During my first year of A-levels I just turned 18 and I was a little bit more focused on going out and having a good time. And I didn't do as well as I expected. I still achieved a C in maths, but I knew I could do better than that. In my second year I decided to focus a little bit more and try and get some better grades, but I accidentally overdosed on my injection and nearly died on the 5th of August 2010. After that near-death experience I had a couple of months of just trying to get better. even then I had long-term health issues pop up, so I didn't do as great as I wanted in my studies, as my focus was on my health. I still end up getting a C in maths. I asked my maths teacher for a reference to do maths at university. She actually ended up declining the first time I asked. This actually put me quite down because I really did want to study maths at university. So I ended up lying to her and telling her that I was going to actually do maths and IT, which she just about gave me a reference, which then just about got me into university to study mathematics. When I started uni, I made a promise to myself that I would achieve a first class degree with honours in mathematics. To achieve this, I would revise each day for at least 1 hour. My second commitment was I would attend workshops if I was struggling. And I also made a priority to manage my diabetes with more care and try to keep my blood sugars within a good range, which would help me study easier. I did have a little breaking point in my second year. I ended up having a high blood sugar before one of my exams, which I assumed I would get 80% on. When my blood sugar is high, I have a hard time trying to focus, and I end up not doing as well as what I wanted on that exam. So rather than getting 80, I actually ended up getting 60% on that exam. But I didn't use this as an excuse. 2 days later, I had another exam. On that exam, I thought I would get 60%. But I decided that I was going to work my hardest to make sure I got my 80% in that exam. So I made sure I'd studied very hard on those next 2 days, and I didn't make any excuses that my blood sugar is high and I won't be able to do it. I just told myself, look, if I really want to achieve this, I just need to put the work in. So those next 2 days, I was able to understand the subject a lot more, and I actually ended up getting 80% on that exam. Because of this no excuse attitude, I walked out of uni with a first class degree with honours in mathematics. I could have given in to any of these excuses to not achieve my goals, and people would have understood, but I wanted more from my life. For anyone that's watching this that has goals or ambitions to achieve anything that you want in your life, don't let any obstacle get in your way from doing that. Remember, there's no excuses. This is a no excuse story by Indy Pahal. Thank you for watching.